if someone asked me, are you happy? I would say absolutely not, and I haven't been for a couple of years.
Tyler Baltierra has always been pretty open about his struggles with mental health on Teen Mom.
I'm saying in my own world, in my perception, it's like, dude, if you don't always have your together.
But over the last couple of years, he's been able to make more progress than ever, healing from the trauma he went through in his devastating childhood. So what exactly has Tyler been doing to work through his emotional pain? The truth about what he's been doing is finally coming to light, and it's pretty crazy. It's no secret that many aspects of Tyler's upbringing were extremely challenging. His dad, Butch, was in and out of jail constantly, which has had a long-lasting negative impact on Tyler's own view of himself as a father. But he didn't speak about the extent of his childhood trauma for a long time. In Tyler and Caitlin's 2015 book, Conquering Chaos, they both reveal the horrible, life-changing events they went through as kids. Several of the situations they wrote about had never been fully explained before, including a couple of Tyler's most tragic experiences. When Tyler was only 9 years old, he was forced by one of his sister, Amber's 13-year-old friends to participate in absolutely awful acts. He didn't really understand or want to take part in the appropriate contact, but he felt pressured into it by her and was scared to tell anyone. Sadly, that wasn't the only time that Tyler was pushed into an inappropriate situation against his will. Since his dad was almost never around, his mom, Kim, had to work as often as she could to make ends meet. Kim sometimes had to work shifts that were really late at night, so she would arrange for Tyler and Amber to go stay somewhere else. Unfortunately, she didn't always know what was going on at those houses, and the kids would sometimes end up at wild parties. One night when Tyler was around 12 years old and Amber was 16, she was supposed to be keeping an eye on him while Kim was at work. But Amber decided to bring her brother along to one of her friends' houses so that all the teenagers could party. What happened next was seriously unthinkable. Tyler went with the younger kids into a separate room where they all watched movies as the older kids partied. At one point, when the younger kids had all fallen asleep, one of Amber's friends snuck into the room, and that's when everything came crashing down. Tyler was woken up by the teenage girl who forced him into the same type of situation he had experienced 4 years earlier by another one of Amber's friends. He claimed that even when he resorted to pretending to be asleep, she continued touching him inappropriately. The first time that Tyler experienced unwanted contact like that, it made him feel so guilty. But he couldn't understand why he felt that way since it happened against his will. Tyler's extreme guilt only got worse after the second incident. He decided to try speaking out about it to some of his friends, but the responses he got were incredibly discouraging. Almost all of the boys that Tyler confided in didn't think that what he had gone through was a big deal. That only made him feel more alone and ended up giving him unhealthy expectations and beliefs about relationships. Tyler desperately wanted to understand why he felt so wrong about what had happened to him. He had been feeling very depressed since he was only 11 years old, but not long after the second traumatic experience, his struggles with mental health started to spiral out of control. Thankfully, Tyler knew that he needed to talk to someone, and he was able to attend regular appointments with his therapist. But even though cognitive behavioral therapy was helpful for a long time, he eventually realized that he needed more help healing. Over the years, Tyler ended up being diagnosed with bipolar disorder, depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorder. He also made a connection between the terrible events he experienced and another traumatic event that's absolutely unreal. Tyler realized that his harmful views on relationships and intimacy had resulted in Caitlin's first pregnancy. Placing their daughter, Carly, for adoption was most likely the best choice for her. But for Tyler and Caitlin, it added to the emotional pain they had already been battling because of how unbelievably difficult it was. The mental burden of what Tyler had experienced in his upbringing, combined with placing Carly for adoption, was too heavy for him to handle. Nearly 3 years ago, he started researching other forms of therapy, since talk therapy wasn't providing the intense help he needed. What that led to was honestly bizarre. In a 2021 episode of Teen Mom OG, Tyler and Caitlin started opening up about the different types of therapy he had tried.
He's looked into a few uncommon treatments.
What it's doing is basically resetting the alpha waves in your brain.
But the combination of all the trauma he had experienced in his childhood had seriously affected how he felt about himself. In order to be the best possible father, husband, and person he could, he ultimately decided to try a form of therapy that's pretty unconventional. Tyler started a type of treatment that involves being given an injection of a certain psychedelic substance. Patients are then supervised by a healthcare provider and asked therapeutic questions to help them work through the trauma that resurfaces. Tyler mentioned his success with the substance-guided therapy a few times on the show. He admitted that he hadn't realized that so much of his trauma had basically gone totally unaddressed, but it wasn't until recently that we got to see one of his sessions. In a September episode of Teen Mom, The Next Chapter, he spent 1 week getting treatments at a California therapy center. And a few days after the episode aired, he explained more about the process in a truly eye-opening interview. Tyler revealed to People magazine that participating in the specific type of substance therapy has helped him unlock painful memories and heal from them. But he also confessed that at first, many of his friends and family members reacted to his treatments in a crazy way. Tyler admitted that until he explained to the people in his circle how beneficial this form of substance therapy could be, many of them were shocked that he would even try it. Now they all support him and his choice to continue with the treatment. But apparently their initial reaction is part of what led him to make a very impressive decision. Tyler said that he's always tried to use his platform on MTV to advocate for mental health. He felt like it was important for people to know that there are other options for therapy, which is why he wanted to share his journey with substance-guided treatment. But that wasn't all. Tyler also said that he wanted to open up more about what he's experienced in his life because so many men feel like they need to suffer in silence. He wants other men to realize that they're not alone and they're allowed to ask for help with their mental health. However, Tyler did stress the importance of people researching the process of how the therapy works, along with different doctors and facilities. He explained that during the treatment, he feels so disconnected from his body that it can be extremely overwhelming. Because of how intense the therapy can be, Tyler added that he prefers to undergo treatments in a very calming environment. He likes for the treatments to be as spiritual as possible, so he usually meditates and listens to soothing music at his appointments as well. Tyler has successfully been able to process so much more of his childhood trauma with the help of substance-guided therapy. He's also been able to understand more about how all of those experiences have impacted him throughout his adult life. The type of therapy Tyler has been using definitely isn't the most common form of mental health treatment. It's only been FDA approved since 2019, and it still carries a lot of stigma because it's a mind-altering substance. Tyler has gone through so many terrible, life-changing experiences, but thankfully, he's been able to make a lot more progress in his healing journey. And by sharing his story on national TV, hopefully he can help other people who are struggling with their mental health as well. But now that we've talked about what Tyler had to deal with in his tragic upbringing and how he's been able to process that trauma, I want to know what you guys think. What are your thoughts on the horrible experiences that Tyler talked about in his and Caitlin's book? What do you think about the specific type of substance-guided therapy he's been doing? Let me know in the comments below.